Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info, and welcome to Behind the Wall, the post-race show that comes on after the race, where unofficially, pending the results of post-race inspection, Tyler Reddick has already won his fourth race in the first 6 races of the season, coming back from a disappointing run at Darlington a couple of years ago when he tangled with Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski, pulled off the victory. Keselowski and Buescher very strong in this race as well. Could not quite pull it off, but did Greg Biffle proud with a fantastic run for especially the first two. We didn't really see as much out of Ryan Preece today, but RFK Racing distinguished themselves very well in this. But Tyler Reddick, what a run, gutsy performance with the air conditioning failing at the very beginning of the race, an electrical issue, had to get a new battery in there. Very reminiscent, and this is no exaggeration, of what we saw out of Ricky Rudd back at Martinsville in 1998. It was a very hot, very exhausting weekend there. Darrell Waltrip actually did a fine job explaining that in the opening part of this race here as well, and made for a very difficult day. But stayed right with it, had to purge his cool suit there. Fox doing a good job of showing what was happening there as well. Had a bad pit stop on top of all of that at the very beginning there. Came back from a lot in this one and had to get back up there and take the lead back. Bit of a controversial incident between himself and Chris Buescher. Some contact going into turn 3. Seemed like that was a tricky spot there. Earlier in the race as well, we saw, of course, the incident with Denny Hamlin and Eric Jones and Bubba Wallace there as well that kind of changed things around there at the same moment. But yeah, tremendous effort there for Reddick. They've really lit things up to start this year. Again, unfortunate deal there for both Bubba Wallace and Riley Herbst and the other two 2311 cars, both of them encountering misfortunes there that they couldn't quite come back from here. Indeed, both of them ending up towards the back of the field there with Riley Herbst in the 35th spot and Bubba Wallace in 34th. Just showed how relentless this race was. This may not have been the most spectacular Darlington race, given, of course, the track's history, but I would say with this, high horsepower, low downforce package, these drivers had to earn every single moment. It just looked like an absolutely brutal race out there. And drivers, kind of falling off the pace towards the end. We saw Chase Briscoe dropping off the pace and falling out of a top 10 run after he had run so strong. Kyle Larson as well, with an issue with the toe link towards the end of it. This was a very brutal race. Kind of reminded me of 98, the spring race out here, and the Southern 500 actually having very low attrition back in that season there. And was kind of a throwback in a different sense out there. So again, not the closest finish out there, but a lot was happening at the end. And it's fascinating to see a race where, it's in the driver's hands, much like Kevin Harvick mentioned in the pre-race. The drivers are able to really capitalize and have, good runs at different points and actually be able to gain some spots at the end. Indeed, we saw this out of Carson Hocevar, being able to rally there at the end after having to start at the back of the field. He was basically third from last at the start, starting in front of Timmy Hill and alongside Cole Custer there on the final row. The charge from there to finish fourth in this race, a tremendous accomplishment. I do think that, there's still some, there's a lot of excitement behind this driver. Sometimes it feels a bit overblown there with the whole Dale Earnhardt thing and all that. And running the throwback scheme here this weekend. His performance today was definitely worth talking about there. And again, fine job by Fox to put a pin in that at the end, and Mike Joy bringing up some of these overarching storylines that we got to carry over to Martinsville and then the rest of the season beyond. So again, it was again, I think it's another one of these races where Fox and these other broadcast partners need to adjust their expectations a little bit and kind of understand what's happening out there. Matt Weaver did a great job pointing out during the broadcast that, there was a lot of interesting, smaller tire strategies there that maybe weren't getting featured as much in this broadcast that would really add that much more focus to it there. Again, interesting the way this turned out. I really felt like Brad Keselowski was going to win this. It looked like he had the best car overall. I know that Brad himself said that he didn't really have much for Reddick there at the end, but he was rooting and gouging in there and doing what he needed to do. Brian Blaney as well, getting mentioned for how many spots he gained in this race and rallying a bit before Carson Hocevar really took off there to get the third spot there at the end. Yeah, it's good to see, drivers able to manipulate their cars and work their way up there. And I think if the broadcast can adjust to that to show a more complete view of the field and seeing these things, maybe kind of track them a little bit earlier in the race, that would be fantastic. Some of these got featured. Again, Blaney got a lot of mentions in this, Keselowski, Chris Buescher as well. But there were other drivers that were really making things happen out there. And that's certainly good to see. But Reddick, very well-deserved victory on this one. I know that I see already from some of the comments here in the chat there that, yeah, I mean, it's that the timing of this is a little suspect, yeah, from things over the offseason there. But, again, I would have expected if something were set up, you'd see all three of the cars at the front of the field there, but that hasn't quite been the case. Whatever it is over that 45 team, they have gone off to a tremendous start here. And with the chase format, being what it is, they're going to be very tough for drivers to beat. But we have, again, we've seen drivers get off to a really good start in the season other times before and then just not be able to carry it the rest of the year. And that's going to be really one of the things to follow is, can they keep that going? We see so many times that a driver gets a good start to the season and then that summer stretch, going into the playoffs, maybe doesn't quite hold together. And the consequences of that are going to be a bit different this year from the past with the win and you're in system and all that kind of thrown out the window. So, we'll see where that continues, because it's still a grueling schedule. It's still 36 races, and we don't know where things are going to be on the other side of it. But again, we'll find out what the deal is going to be there. But again, very pleased with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, RFK as well. Again, their program in general. It seems like they just got something at this track that they've kind of figured out these last couple of years. Of course, the site of Keselowski's most recent win, a race that Buescher himself was very close to winning. And we're starting to see kind of some same figures up towards the front of the field in these races lately. And that's another piece of it. And kudos to Buescher to recover from what, again, Fox was very right to point out, that incident that Buescher had with the contact from Reddick and slapping the outside wall that hard with the right rear. I am amazed that they didn't break a toe link on that thing at the very least. I mean, for as durable as these cars are, that could have very easily been a situation where, yeah, he was just going to lose a couple laps with getting the toe link fixed or maybe just fall out of it. But to keep going, didn't even bring out a caution, didn't miss a step, lost a couple spots inevitably from that. But working his way back up there, that was, another, race that was could be a contender for drive of the day. Because I know, of course, Reddick would, justifiably lead that group, but there were so many drivers in this field that really separated themselves out and distinguished themselves in this. And that's what we really want to see with, again, the high horsepower, the low downforce, and hopefully see this at more of the other tracks later this season. Again, we didn't, it's an interesting comparison to what we had at Las Vegas, because much like at Las Vegas, again, very, very low attrition, still had most of the field within just a few laps of the leader, even in the closing stages of this, but a very different race in that respect. Again, you could really see people struggling to keep up and falling to exhaustion towards the end, cars falling apart there towards the end, although, again, not high attrition, but still dropping out of the lead battle there, even in a 400-mile race here compared to the Southern 500. It was an interesting race. It was not, real crazy in the traditional sense. I got kind of the sense from some of these podcasts that we were hearing about that they were expecting something closer to what we saw at Bristol, that tires were going to be a big issue, and, tires falling apart and really having teams scramble for it. And tires absolutely were an issue, but in a different sense. You actually had teams really being able to work the right strategies, and it was a good build-up to what we saw in the other races this weekend. We'll talk about the Truck Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series races from this weekend there as well. Looking through some other finishes, they're very surprising. Austin Cindric, I did not expect anything out of him coming into this. I don't remember him being that much of a factor these first couple of years, but getting stage points and running really well in this race and getting a fifth place finish, great effort for him. Daniel Suarez, my goodness, for the aggression that he's shown this year, especially racing the Trackhouse teams this season, I was concerned that maybe a race like this was going to be one where he'd, be further back in the field, and maybe that aggression was not going to be rewarded, but quite the opposite. I was very impressed with the performance he put forward, getting a 7th place finish out of it for the Spire team, joining Hocevar there in the top 10. Fine effort out of him. I think he could be really dangerous this year. If again, whether it's going to be at a track like this, where again you have the low downforce, high horsepower deal, or any place in between. That's really it's really been interesting to see. And I think that was a good performance there out of him. William Byron, Chris Buescher, and Eric Jones rounding out the top 10. And of course, I'm not going to ignore the elephant in the room. That's bringing out all the Wally Dallenbach deal here for this weekend. Love the paint scheme that they ran on that 43 car. And I love the ad campaign that Advent Health put together. Not a sponsored live stream here, of course. Saying that if you recognize this paint scheme, it's probably time to go see your doctor. And incidentally, I did actually see my doctor this week. So maybe that was part of the step forward there on that too. So appreciate the great effort that they put together there. I know he had the spin there after the contact from Denny Hamlin, but came back from that well enough there. Got around Chase Briscoe after the issues he had towards the very end of the race there. So a fine deal there as well. So I got some other Wally Dallenbach related stuff here I'm going to use for our show and tell segment a little bit later today. And we'll do some more trivia there at the end, because I know we didn't get around to that really as much leading into last week's show there for Vegas. But I was hoping Jones would get a contender for a top 5 or maybe even a win. Didn't quite happen this time around. But, given the fact that number 43 car, when it came out here in 1994 to the spring race at Darlington, and they finished in last place with the blown engine out there, which was Dallenbach's only last place finish with the Petty team. A good turnaround there as well. And a fun tribute scheme too. Very underrated version of the 43 scheme. So I do have the hat on here. Big thanks to the Days Gone By shop out there, and Brent Wentz out there picked this up just recently. And then the shirt I even have on here as well with the Wally's World scheme there. Saw this on eBay for a while, finally decided to pull the trigger on it last year, and I'm glad I did, because it came out here perfectly for that deal there too. So I always loved that scheme. I remembered seeing it at Sears Point when he had actually the best run of his year before he lost that ride in the summer. Really interesting to see, and brought back some good memories. So I'm glad they had a good run. I was ready in case they got a last place finish and then tie that together. But that was not the case this time around. But the last place finisher was Timmy Hill, which had a bit of intrigue there as well. Just real frustrating out there for Garage 66 and Carl Long and the folks out there. I hated for him. And ultimately, unofficially, the only driver that fell out of the race, in fact, and was the only open entry in the field there with Timmy Hill. Was off the pace in practice, off the pace again in qualifying, a couple, about a second or more off even the next car in line. It looked like it was going to be a real difficult weekend, which was unfortunate because Timmy Hill himself had done so well in the Truck Series race on Friday, finishing in the 14th spot. In the opening laps of the race, just going to the first corner, already lost a lot of ground to the field, was about, I believe, a second and a half behind the next car in line at the end of the first lap. And then it just grew from there. Lost one lap, I believe, on lap 14. Another about 20 laps into the race. Had to come down pit road early. Tried to make some adjustments. Didn't end up working. Had to go to the garage area. Made about, I think it was about 10 more laps of repairs and sent him back out there again. He was 18 laps down. And all this in about the first 50 laps of the race. Ultimately had to drop out of the race about 70 laps into the event. And it was just done for the day. It was unofficially listed as handling as the reason out, with last time that a driver finished last in a cup race at Darlington with handling issues was Darrell Waltrip in his last spring race at Darlington in the year 2000. Interestingly enough, all the drivers of the number 66 that have ever finished last at Darlington were at the track today, if you can believe that. Lake Speed drove for Cale Yarborough in 1991. And finished last in a race that year. I believe it was in the spring race. Or no, I guess it would probably be in the fall because he was taking over for another team. But regardless, 1991, finished last in that race. He performed the invocation before the race today. Michael McDowell, of course, driving for HP Racing LLC for Phil Parsons. back in 2011, driving the number 71 car today. He was in the race, and Darrell Waltrip himself being in the booth for the broadcast here as well. One thing I do want to mention as well, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, the broadcast in general, I felt was a little bit better, just noticeably better. I was certainly, again, glad to hear Larry McReynolds doing okay after the concerns we had back at Phoenix. He sounded like he was as good as he was at Vegas. Chris Myers, I thought, was actually kind of better this time around. I know I was very critical of some of his performances last season, especially at North Wilkesboro last year in the All-Star race. He just seemed very off. I mean, maybe he was just having a bad stretch or something like that, but I thought he was actually pretty good today. So I was encouraged to see that things were a bit more copacetic there in the booth. And Darrell Waltrip was good. I mean, gosh, he came in there and he gave some great interviews. We saw the interviews online there with Front Stretch and others that were there in the infield, and was very candid about his opinions about the sport itself and kind of getting used to the differences, even in just a couple of years since he was last in the booth. Yeah, you know, again, it was, I was encouraged. I was very much encouraged. Again, right up to the end there with Mike Joy summing up the storyline, showing the championship standings. It's like, okay, good. That's something to kind of build on, just kind of integrate that even more into the broadcast itself. I think we can get something that, you know, Fox can kind of get their feet under and, you know, help things along that way. So again, I was, you know, I don't really have that many, you know, criticisms really of the broadcast itself. I think that, if anything, again, it's just going to be a continual process of adjusting to, you know, this new package where, you know, the field's more spread out, the drivers are manipulating the cars, and also, again, to the championship format, and understanding it's not that instant gratification of win and you're in. It's trying to kind of figure your way through the fog when you don't even know what the championship's going to look like in November. You know, they're just laying the foundation for it. This felt like a step that direction. You know, they're getting there, and I see the effort there as well. So I appreciate seeing that there too. But again, Timmy Hill, your last place finisher, the 17th last place finish of his career, his first in the next gen car, if you can believe that as well. He's only had 3 starts in the next gen car since it was instituted. His most recent last place finish was back in 2021. So you had it back then. Cody Ware, I hope he's doing okay. I didn't see any. I heard a report. I think Gluck was tweeting about it there, that there was something that was burning his leg in the car, and he sounded really frustrated on the radio before that, that there was some issue in the front of the car. But again, Cody did a solid job there, finished the race under power, stayed in it to the end. I don't know, you know, I didn't hear anything about relief drivers or anything. And indeed, you know, he's credited with the 36th place finish, but within 8 laps of the leader there at the checkered flag. Riley Herbst and Bubba Wallace, again, mentioning them and the bad luck they had, bringing them in the bottom 5. And Joey Logano, very uncharacteristically off in this one. Of course, a past winner of the spring race here at Darlington, but really struggled in practice, struggled in the race here, lost a lap early, ends up 3 laps down in the 33rd spot. Difficult, you know, I wouldn't say it's time to, you know, hit a panic button or anything. It's a long championship. Again, you can just have an off day or just a day where just the car just isn't set up for this track, as unpredictable as this place can be. But it's also unforgiving if you are kind of off. We saw the extreme version of that with Timmy Hill, and we saw it also with Joey Logano. So that was very much the story there too. Kyle Larson dropping off the pace towards the end. He ends up back in the 32nd spot. And other drivers further back here as well. Ty Dillon was towards the back most of the day there, showing in the 31st spot. Justin Allgaier in his second race, driving in place of Alex Bowman. This now going to extend through Bristol in a couple weeks, so he's going to run the next 2 short track races at Martinsville and Bristol, and we'll see how those go there. Of course, you know, thinking of Alex Bowman and hoping that his recovery from vertigo symptoms is going as well as it can be there. Hendrick Motorsports still leaving that seat open for him when he does return to the driver's seat there. But a 24th place finish for the Ally team there, which is good because actually at one point he was next to last with an early pit stop around the time Timmy Hill started to struggle, but gained some spots back there. Kyle Busch back in 21st, Michael McDowell in 20th, Christopher Bell. You know, again, other drivers just uncharacteristically kind of off the pace here. Bell back in the 19th spot. Other drivers there too. Chase Elliott looked very good early in the race, ends up settling back into a 15th place finish, one spot behind Shane Van Gisbergen. Talking him up last week, even after the last place finish when he was a few laps down, and wondering about how he was going to perform at the ovals. I think I was talking about this on the show last week. This was going to be a massive challenge here for Darlington, because it was here that really his playoff bid pretty much ended before it could even really start, when he had struggled so much in the Southern 500. Seemed like this was going to be a really challenging track. And now you have it this time where you have even fewer cautions, even lower attrition, and a real, challenge where you had to really get up on the wheel and stay up there. He gets a 14th place finish. I'd say mission accomplished on that. And again, people are going to have to really get on board here with the 97 being more of a fixture towards the front of the field here on the ovals. I think we are definitely heading towards that. It can only happen so many more times before you can just say it's a fluke here or there. No, we are past that. He's been very impressive this year. Again, good at Daytona, good at Atlanta. He just had a rough day in Vegas, but scrambling it together here again, and looking as good as he did at Phoenix. I think this is going to be really interesting. So again, in terms of winning the races, we'll see. But again, if you're finishing this consistently and just staying right up there and staying on the lead lap as he did here, this was a big challenge, about the biggest track that we have that's running this package this year, and being able to do that. So kudos to him on that. Again, wonderful stories through the field, as that would pretty much be about the only note I have for Fox on this one. If you just get as many stories throughout the field and the trends that these drivers are on, and who's doing well and who's surprising and who's lagging back. We got glimpses of that today. If we just get more of that, I think we're getting much closer to something that can really carry the viewer into the next broadcast partner and into the rest of the season coming up here. So I hope that we have something like that too. Fitted Jones, Daryl was like, I'm out of here. I don't blame him. The infield, the place they showed, like Randy Tolsma and Mike Bliss were there as well. It looked really nice. Like, I'd probably want to get it, especially for how hot it was out there. And I'm sure they got, spotlights like we got here over at Lascar headquarters, just adding heat to the booth there. I'm sure he was very happy to be in the hospitality suite, and that was totally fine with me there too. So yeah. Oh, Yo-Yo, thank you for tuning in. Love you too. Thank you for tuning in here tonight. Fantastic. We got a good group in here today, so I definitely appreciate that. Great race today, and something to build off of. But again, a great race in a different sense, and I hope that the respect for long green flag racing and understanding these drivers just challenging their own endurance and the teams challenging the mechanical endurance of it, and trying to minimize mistakes on pit road and staying up with people. That can be just as compelling as a race that has a whole lot of wrecks or a whole lot of overtime finishes. Again, it doesn't mean that every race needs to play out this way. I wouldn't expect it to, but this would be a good way to look forward to it. So hopefully that's something else that gets built on going forward here as well. So again, pending the results post-race inspection, Timmy Hill, your last place finisher, his first in a cup race since 2021, the fourth for the number 66 in the track's history. We'll see what the story is from that. I have a rough draft of that article going, so that will be up there later tonight. Big thanks to Matt Miller for sharing some pictures from this weekend, covering the races over at Darlington. Sent some pictures here of the Truck Series race with Ben Rhodes in last place, and just sent over another picture here with Timmy Hill before he went to the garage area. So we'll have that for the article this week here as well. Let us see here. We'll jump into the Truck Series and the O'Reilly Series races here as well. But let's see. Yeah, the grid walk. The grid walk is always, kind of awkward and goofy. Big all caps. I definitely agree that that was a bit off, but I actually found Daryl more engaging than Michael even there. It just kind of shows how awkward the grid walk is for Michael there in general. So, but it was fine, and I loved that they, again, there's been a lot of talk about, this race not being the official throwback weekend where, the teams are, not, always thrown into, doing throwback schemes and all that. I think this is probably a fine balance for that, though, because it's still basically like the NASCAR alumni week. Like we have an alumni week at, college. I get emails about this all the time from UC Irvine, and I sense that this is kind of the same experience. And I think that's a good way to do it. You bring a lot of the drivers out. You have a nice air-conditioned room where, the drivers can hang out and talk to each other. You let the media get in there and they can talk to these drivers too. That element's still there. And that's really kind of the heart of Throwback Weekend, is understanding the history of the sport. The paint schemes are nice, but you know what? A lot of these big teams out there, if they're going to just half-ass it or not do it at all, let's just, not even just bother them with it. And, people that want to do throwback schemes and stuff like that, or that, that are able to do it, great. I love the Dallenbach scheme. I thought Carson Hocevar's scheme looked great too. I think that's fine. And I think maybe that's the way to pivot it is, just treat this as NASCAR's alumni weekend. Just let the NASCAR alumni program kind of take root there. You already have the Darlington Hall of Fame and the NMPA, and they always, and their Hall of Fame there too. It's certainly conducive to that. You're still going to have teams that are going to do it, because now, keep in mind, it's been a decade now since we really started doing the throwback weekend thing. It's so ingrained into Darlington in general that it's not even one race anymore. I mean, now it didn't used to be the spring race. It used to be the Southern 500, but we see the schemes run here, and we see sometimes schemes run in the fall race still. So it's been enough a part of the track that it's not going to go away. So saying that it's not officially recognized by the track as Throwback Weekend, it's still going to be there. I mean, the cover of the program said as much as well, with the artwork that was on there. So that's good. As long as that's the case, I think that'll keep going. And it'll just this will be the next evolution of it. I'd love to cover another race there too. We covered a couple Southern 500s there during the Throwback Weekend in 2017, 2019. Really enjoyed myself both times. And I got a little bit of FOMO watching it on TV here today, I'd have to say. But hey, it's definitely another good one there as well. But love to see these drivers push to their limits and continue to do it. I hope that we see that at Martinsville next week and at Bristol after that. We got the Rockingham weekend coming up here for the Truck Series and the O'Reilly Series. That was a blast to cover last year. We will not be out there this year. The next races we'll be covering in person will be the San Diego Coronado Naval Base coming up in June, and the Sears Point race the following week. And we're also looking at Vegas in the fall. That's kind of our schedule for this year. But again, great efforts there as well. We'll get into the O'Reilly and the Truck Series here as well. We'll start with the O'Reilly Series. Justin Allgaier pulling off a win, beating a Cup Series regular in Kyle Larson, who had crushed the field, leading 107 of 147 laps there. Larson back to the fourth spot. One pit stop pretty much made the difference there. Not quite as climactic as what we saw in Friday's Truck Series races we'll talk about here in just a moment. But am I A-okay with Cup Series regular getting beat there by the series regulars? Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with that, but it still makes me feel like they shouldn't be there to begin with. Again, if you have the right outcome, but the burden's still there, I'm like, why do we still have that in there? And I appreciate Steve Malazzi coming out here, was responding to somebody else's tweet about this and bringing up the cost-benefit analysis of having the benefit of racing against these drivers, but also the issues of, how much more money goes that direction and how that can negatively affect the competition. There are pros and cons, and, these drivers recognize it as much as anybody, and really their, viewpoint on it, I think is what should control here. I can vent about my own personal feelings about it, but ultimately I'm not entering a car out there and I'm not driving out there. So it's going to be, I don't expect that to get a lot of, legs out there. I just, again, much like I said in the Las Vegas show last week, I don't think it's sportsmanlike. I don't think it's fair. And I think in auto racing, when you have this extra element of the teams having extra resources and the cars being stronger and everything. It's not just a matter of a difference of skill. It's a matter of difference of resources. And that's what you don't have in other sports. Parker Kligerman was doing a bit of recovery on this and kind of, rationalizing this at the end of the O'Reilly series broadcast last night. And again, I know there's two ways of looking at it. You could say, okay, well, yeah, no other sport does this. But I'm kind of from the viewpoint of like, well, maybe that's the reason why they don't do it. That's in a sport. Those are in sports where, yeah, it really is a matter more of just a difference in athleticism or difference in ability versus it's not as equipment based in terms of the equipment having a factor in your performance. I think in motorsports, you should be more critical of it. And yet, for whatever reason, we still allow this to happen, whether it's the sponsors, the teams, the drivers, or whatever, or some combination in there. That's the other element of it. But it is fun to have the Cup driver not pull off the win there, but it very nearly did. Honestly, if that pit stop went a little bit better, we wouldn't be talking about Allgaier winning the race here. And I got an interesting comment after that race that I take issue with that was making it sound like I was saying that these other drivers just aren't good enough to beat these drivers, the Cup drivers, or that the level of talent isn't good enough. And I'm not saying that. In fact, that's kind of what people that are proposing the Cup drivers be in there are saying. They're saying that like, oh, that these drivers don't have enough respect and don't have enough this and that. And so they have to have the Cup drivers like keeping them in line. But like Steve Malazzi brought up and like Caden Honeycutt, excuse me, getting so used to somebody else in that 11 truck. Like Caden Honeycutt brought up in the Truck Series race, the Cup Series regulars just race, they can race just willy-nilly. They can just do whatever they want because they're not going for the championship. And it's no holds barred. And I know we got a couple of examples in the Truck Series race of guys like Carson Hocevar and Ross Chastain where they're very aggressive even in Cup Series races. But it really is no different from any of them. And what's the caliber of driver that's usually picking up these rides? It's the top names of the sports. It's your Kyle Busch. It's your Kyle Larson. It's your Christopher Bell. It's guys that don't need the extra experience, that don't need the extra exposure. And yet that's going to be something that's still allowed. And I'm sure from a driver's standpoint, you're just thinking, okay, it's more laps at Darlington. It's a fun track to do. And it's, you're just looking for the sheer sport of it, which I'm fine with, but only to an extent. Let's at least get to the point where maybe they drive for a smaller team. They got to field their own cars. They got to, they don't get the benefit of a JR Motorsports car or, a big name sponsor in there. Or, other people suggesting, having them start at the back of the field, that's one idea. We've seen drivers like Kyle Busch not really have that much of an issue with that. Again, other ways to look at the problem. And it is still kind of a problem. I know that some still feel that it isn't because there are restrictions in place, but I'm looking ahead where we are right now. And I'm feeling like there's these restrictions in place, but there's cracks in the armor here. We're starting to see more drivers get outspoken about it, like Kyle Larson saying they want to go in there that much more and just dominate these lower series drivers. We're starting to see more of these drivers use their 4 or 5 starts in the lower series. It feels like we're going the other way. I feel the need to kind of head that off a bit. And it's like, okay, well, let's make sure that stays in check because it's already absurd on its face there at that point there too. But again, Allgaier pulling off the win, leading 31 laps, getting the victory there for JR Motorsports in his own right there. Yeah, easily the best driver in that series, I would say at this point. Among the series regulars, he's just really been impressive out there, really made another name for it on that in that performance there as well. Brandon Jones in second. Jones and his pit crew deserve a big attaboy here too. For him getting off pit road and actually getting the lead from Larson, that was impressive. And I get from the viewpoint of people that are proponents of the Cup Series regulars, if you didn't have the Cup driver there, you're not going to have that same experience. But again, I'm still advocating that the caliber of drivers in that series are more than capable of putting on a good show. It's not like you got 3 guys that can win every race and then you just got everybody else that's in the way. There's tight battles throughout that field. And these guys care just as much as anybody else. I mean, the battles at the back of the field are really exhilarating out there. In fact, in this race itself, which had, again, very low attrition, nobody falling out until 120 laps into the race, last place traded about, like, I think a dozen times between about 5 or 6 guys out there. So it wasn't even like a situation where you had somebody that was just way off the pace and just missed the setup completely. So that was really competitive. So I appreciated seeing that as well. Incidentally, Alex LeBay ended up being your last place finisher, much like with Timmy Hill today. A rarity at the back of the field there. LeBay had not finished last, I believe, since 2019 in the O'Reilly Series. Had a last place run for Daytona that year. Dropped out, got collected in a multi-car accident on the back straightaway. Unfortunately, got caught up in the chain reaction behind it. It's still not entirely clear to me who got into him, or it looked like he crossed somebody's nose from how quick the car kind of switched ends. But the result was the same. He ended up hitting the inside wall, leaked a lot of fluid on the track. NASCAR had to spend some extra time during that caution to clean the fluid up there, but that was the same situation there. With some issues after bouncing off the wall in lap 5, had to limp around to try to stretch the car to the end of stage 1. Had lost a couple laps there in the process and just never really recovered from there. Ended up getting involved in the incident on the back straightaway that caused even more damage to his car. Just a day to forget there for Austin Hill. Again, kind of the overarching theme from this weekend is you saw just how demanding this track can be. And it doesn't matter how good you are or how many wins you have. If you show just a little bit of weakness or something just a little bit off, the track is merciless. And we certainly saw that in Saturday's race there as well. Looking through the field, I saw a mention of this here in the chat, and I agree. Austin Green's throwback was a great job on that. Loved to see the Slim Jim paint scheme that his father David ran in the O'Reilly Series back when it was the Busch Series many years ago. Very iconic paint scheme there. The number 44, the white numbers against the red and yellow background there. Just a gorgeous paint scheme, and they did a fine job on that one. Not seeing a lot of throwbacks in that race, but the ones that were there were a nice job there as well. Of course, more tributes to Greg Biffle between Brennan Poole and Dean Thompson there as well. Dean, unfortunately, involved in the beginning of the incident there with Kyle Sieg in the situation there. Issues with fuel mileage, at least according to what happened with Kyle Sieg, something with the engine program between the Jeremy Clements team and RSS Racing. It's just an issue where I had a couple cars running out of gas at the very end of the first stage, dropped them both back in the order. Clements coming back to 19th, but unfortunately, again, Sieg involved in the incident, dropped him to the 37th spot. Good to see Nick Sanchez getting a solid run after struggling these last few weeks, including the last place run at Phoenix. This time around last place run at Vegas. Phoenix was Ryan Ellis. But a 16th place run may not sound that impressive on paper, but again, I think a little bit more stability out there after what's been a challenging year for driver and team. I think that was a fine effort out there in that one. Anthony Alfredo and Parker Retzlaff. Viking Motorsports is here, large and in charge. They have been very impressive this year. I'm almost even more impressed with Alfredo for starting the year off with the DNQ and having to kind of scrap things together from there. Getting the 12th place finish out there. He was a menace out there, battling in and around the top 10. And then Retzlaff, even more so. I mean, could have won the Atlanta race, battling against Sheldon Creed up there. Seeing some great races out of the 99. There are people saying like, oh, he needs to be in a better ride and so forth. And I'm sure eventually, he keeps running like this, he'll find his way there. But I wouldn't disrespect this team either. Expanding to 2 cars, so often we see a single car team that's doing okay and they're close to winning, and then they expand to 2 cars and the performance just drops off. We even saw that kind of out of Front Row Motorsports before they shut down when they expanded to 2 cars there in the Cup Series. But here, they haven't missed a beat, and they've been like right in and around the leaders just about every race this year, and it shouldn't be too surprising. I would even go as far to say if either of these guys win, certainly Retzlaff, he's long overdue for winning a race for how much he's overdriven just about every bit of equipment he's had, whether it's Jordan Anderson or the RSS team or any of these other programs in between. Him getting an 8th place finish after qualifying 5th, he'll be right there. But Alfredo, again, he's also been like right in and around. I've always been very impressed with how well he did with Our Motorsports, and some of these other teams working his way up there too. He's gone through very similar steps to Retzlaff, and thankfully, much like Retzlaff, has had his own steady sponsorship with the Dude Wipes brand. I think it's a wonderful, I think the two with their similar backgrounds must be helping both those cars. I know there's a technical alliance with RCR that's helping out. Of course, that's certainly not going to hurt. You want to have the best equipment out there, but I think they got good personnel there, and I think they're playing off each other well. And, whatever they're doing, I hope they keep doing it, because the 99 and the 96 are really fun to see. And again, this was not an easy race for any newcomer to have. I know that they're a bit further on in their careers to, pretty much being veterans at this point. But again, on the younger side in terms of their overall experience. But it's really, really good to see. And also good to see Corey Day have another good run. I know that, certainly there was that incident at Coda, very critical about, of what happened there. And, I still follow through with that. But getting these top 10s and stringing them together and having a quieter run where you're not tangling with anybody, he's doing the right things. He's doing exactly what he needs to do to stay up there and keep showing, why he deserves that ride. And hopefully things for him are just going to keep going that direction. So another positive step for him as well. And kudos to him on that. Would have loved to see Ryan Sieg in the mix. Unfortunately, back in the 13th spot there. Again, solid run, but again, that's a team that really should be in and around the top 10 there too. Just wasn't quite as good of a day there for him. Yeah, other drivers through the field, seeing anybody else standing out. I understood I haven't watched the podcast, but I know that the Black Effect sponsor with Raja Karuth, there was a big deal with that. Hopefully that brings more attention to the Jordan Anderson team and to Raja himself. I know there's a lot of excitement about that. 23rd place finish. I'm sure not what he wanted there as well, but again, still solidly staying, in and around there. If that's what a bad day is, a good day is, top 10 or top 5 or something like that. That's probably the best you could expect for a lot of these series regulars trying to keep themselves up in the point standings here as well. JJ Yaley, 25th place finish. Ironically, probably one of the best runs out of the Hettinger team this year. A team that I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. I know that we hardly have any Fords out there. That team failed to qualify at Coda. And it seems like even Chandler Smith struggled in that car. So I don't know what on earth is happening. But to see them get a solid run out there and finish the race on the lead lap, great job by JJ out there. Again, he's again, a driver that maybe it wouldn't be the first pick that a lot of these teams have these days, where they're always training for such younger drivers out there. But it's good to see these veterans, get these opportunities and really evaluate, what's going on with these programs. And maybe we'll see in these next couple of weeks that 5-car do better, because they've had a really rough start this year. And that was the case. Garrett Smithley, I like the throwback to JD Motorsports. I understand they had a reunion among the crew members out there after the team closed its doors I guess it was a couple of years ago at this point, or was it just last year? Seems like it's been a couple of years at this point. But one of the long-time single-car turned multi-car organizations in the sport. Of course, those famous pictures of all those red Flex Sealed sponsored cars with the yellow numbers running together in a pack at Daytona. But this time around, running the same number, nothing there, finishing in the 27th spot. So again, hopefully the reunion went well, and that deal there at the same time. And Joey Gase's team still struggling the first part of this year. The number 35 car, which was originally their flagship, has now missed 3 consecutive races, and I believe with 3 different drivers. Matt DiBenedetto trying to climb back behind the wheel. It's unfortunate they missed this show in particular, because they had a really nice throwback to Michael Annett running the black and yellow Pilot Travel Centers car that I think Annett ran in 2014, if I'm remembering correctly. They did a nice job with that. They had the Ace sponsorship on there. Unfortunately, they ended up the lone DNQ here this week and missing the show. Hopefully they can turn things around here on the short tracks coming up here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll find out. But again, congratulations to Allgaier, and that's about it on the O'Reilly series effort there too. Yeah, and then on the Truck Series one, probably the finish of, well, I mean, definitely the finish of the weekend. Corey Heim, my goodness. In terms of a race where you just had some really interesting tire strategy, for Heim to come back up there and whistle past Ross Chastain on the last lap, just an exhilarating finish. And it does point to, as Josh Rayom pointed out there as well, it's unfortunate, the unfortunate realities of the sport, that Heim is this big of a talent, made the Daytona 500 this year, got to deal with 2311, but just running part-time and not full-time in the trucks and not full-time in O'Reilly. After winning such a convincing Truck Series championship last year, sometimes drivers try to seek their fortune and it just doesn't quite work out. But I would hate for him to not get picked up by other rides, because this race, probably one of his career races really at this point in terms of the fireworks that were produced here. Just a tremendous effort that he put forward there to pull off that win. Just unbelievable. Right when he was starting to get mentioned by the booth for him to get back up there and snake his way by, that was so much fun to watch. And I know he's got the fan base and the Heim time deal and all that stuff. That's great to see, and I hope that that works out, because it's absurd for him to be this underemployed. I mean, how typical is that in this day and age? You have a driver even that's underemployed out there. So, we'll find out what happens from there. But he wins over Ross Chastain. Christian Eckes continues a very strong start to this year in that 91 truck. Again, I'm just seeing him so rejuvenated after such a frustrating series in the Xfinity series last year with Colleague. I think him and the McAnally team are going to be really difficult this year. Caden Honeycutt coming very close again to winning his first race. This time in the Johnny Benson Throwback, led 59 laps, ends up having to settle for a fourth place finish there. Again, strong words afterwards, talking about the Cup Series drivers racing him the way they are and coming so close to trying to pull off a win. Unfortunately, didn't happen this time around. But again, he's got to be able to rack off multiple wins this year. And it's still early in the season, just 4 races into the truck season. But I think he'll get there. I think that's, he certainly should be able to, for winning the pole and leading that many laps at a track as difficult as Darlington. I'm so reminded of what we saw with Carson Hocevar about 6 years ago when he was driving for Al Neese, and he just couldn't seem to break through, and just time and time again. But then he got closer and closer, and he broke his leg and he won that pole at Sears Point. Just all the crazy stuff that was happening. Caden Honeycutt's been going through the very same thing. And, again, a driver that should be very capable of pulling off multiple wins. Once he gets that first one, that should really open the floodgates. We've seen how much of a difference it's made to Sheldon Creed in the O'Reilly series. The Haas Factory team have continued to be impressive, at the track. They were just outside the top 10 here at Darlington, but again, staying about consistent as they can be and being right up there where they can contend for wins on occasion. Honeycutt's going to get there too, for sure. Connor Mosack rounding out the top 5 for Spire. Great effort there for him. Christopher Bell, another Cup regular in 6th. Grant Enfinger, Giovanni Ruggiero, Daniel Hemrick, and William Sawalich rounding out the top 10. Sawalich coming back from a spin earlier in the race there to round out the top 10. AJ Allmendinger in the Elephant in the Room truck there, number 10, taking over for Daniel Dye after another one of those stories that I'm not a big fan of talking about, where it comes to this person said this and now this happens. A messy situation. Obviously something had to be done. It would have been nice if David Malukas were allowed to be the one to do it. I think the peanut gallery, doesn't need to be the method of change for every one of these stories. I'm not crazy about it there either. Just a silly, just an absurd situation there too. I mean, with the Daniel Dye deal. So, I couldn't help but think with all the stuff this week about what's the appropriate way to handle something like that? Clearly, when you're a public figure and you're representing large multi-million-dollar companies and all that, and you're doing a live stream and you're just shooting your mouth off about, their competitor out there, and Roger Penske, which is, even more concerning. And I think the element that got left out of this discussion, that I could certainly see why NASCAR definitely had to do something, is keep in mind, this is all referencing what we had just a couple weeks ago, where we had these combo weekends between NASCAR and the IndyCar series. And, I think that there was a lot of positivity that came from that. That you had people that were IndyCar fans at St. Petersburg that saw the truck race and really enjoyed it, and actually kind of were a point in the favor of getting rid of the stage cautions, because they were just wondering why there were so many caution laps at the same time, that when they were racing, that they were really into it, which is great. And hopefully we see more of those IndyCar fans over in NASCAR races. And then also to have the Phoenix race, where, again, had a very competitive IndyCar race out there to go with the Cup Series weekend, and how much fun that was. It's unfortunate that, this really stupid thing happens here. Just an unforced error here. Not that this was a mistake by Daniel Dye. It was clearly, he was just being really stupid in this case. It's unfortunate that that's spoiling a bit of that, because I think there was a lot of, positives that were gleaned from that at the same time. And again, I think I was kind of supporting the people that were saying about David Malukas getting in Dye's truck this week. I think that would be the easiest way to do it. You have to have something where, if you have somebody that's shooting their mouth off like that, you have to have something that's going to actually humble the person, to an extent. It has to be something that's going to be more dynamic to the situation, not just a catch-all. It's like, okay, it's going to be sensitivity training in this, and then who knows if that's actually going to work. Like, actually have something where, yeah, it's actually going to have some kind of an effect. And then also use it as an opportunity to promote the sport, to make up for any damage that could have been done from, again, these past couple of weeks with the IndyCar combination events that were, as far as I've seen, very successful. That's where that needs to be played into it. So again, I don't like going into these things all the time where it's something about like this person says this or that. But I don't want to make it sound like it doesn't matter, because it does. Because I do think, going back to a lot of stuff from this year, there's a lot of positivity in the sport. And I think that as long as the solution is something that can be used as an opportunity to keep, to bring positivity into the sport, I think that would be the appropriate way to handle a situation like that. So again, showing, maybe putting Malukas in the truck immediately. What if Malukas struggles in the truck? Is that really going to be helpful in that sense? Maybe that's why that didn't happen, and they put AJ in the truck instead. I don't know, but I think that that's another part of that too. Uh-oh, are we cutting out? Okay. I'm sorry. Are we still glitching here? I didn't see any warnings on this, but yeah. Let me know in the chat if we're having any issues glitching. I didn't see any warnings here on the screen here about that. And I don't. Looks like we still have Wi-Fi here. Let me check my VPN, make sure. Go ahead and let me know in the chat there too. I know we're probably a little bit behind. All good here? Okay, good. All right. You glitched a little bit? Okay. All right. Well, definitely refresh if anybody needs to refresh out there, and then we should be good. Okay, cool. So, yeah. So that getting handled there at the same time. The other story. And again, AJ doing a fine job out there, salvaging a good run out of just a difficult situation there too. Yeah, that's about all I have on this. Yeah. And again, the other reason I don't like stories like this, and again, I know I'm talking a lot about a thing I said I didn't want to talk about. The crowd that's trying to make this a free speech issue, it's not. That's not a relevant concern to this. Obviously, if you got millions of dollars at stake and you're representing a company and all that, yeah, you should be more careful. And that's the situation there. So I would advise against going down that road. It's just not relevant. It's not relevant to it. And we're also not talking state actors, which is a different discussion. I've had it on the show here before. We don't need to go into that. So we'll go from there. Timmy Hill, looking through the rest of the results here. Mentioned him again with the last place finish today, pending the results of post-race inspection. We'll find out what the story is from there. But 14th place run, solid start to the weekend. Unfortunate, didn't end where he wanted to be. Frankie Muniz, after having mechanical issues that kept him from doing a qualifying lap, finishing 18th for the Team Riom effort there. Fine effort out of him. That was a great job. And I will concede this, because I voted for the Robert Presley paint scheme for the 33 truck. I still think that would have looked pretty good, but the Dave Blaney one was the right choice. That was a really good looking truck. It was beautiful. Ryan Blaney gave it its props there during the broadcast, both in practice and the race. Great choice. It came out beautifully on there, and I'm glad it had a good run to go with it. So fine effort there too. Also, oh gosh, I'm looking at the results here. I guess we got to go into this here too. So the incident that ended up with your last place finisher, Ben Rhodes, and Tyler Ankrum coming to blows at the very beginning of the race. Contact between the two trucks caused a flat tire on Ben Rhodes, number 99, put him into the outside wall, ended up out of the race because the engine mounts were shifted there. He could feel that through the steering wheel. So it ended up being a very short night for him. Again, thanks to Matt Miller for sending the pictures. If you can check out the article that was posted there on Friday, his pictures are in there as well. But it ends up being a rare last place finish for him. That's kind of the other overarching trend, at least at that end of the field here. I think he hadn't finished last in, I guess it hasn't been that long. I mean, it was the Charlotte Roval last year. So the first one this year, I guess more for him, it was just, how it disrupted kind of a really good start to the season, trying to break through and win his first race in a little while here. Rhodes off to a very strong start coming into this. We saw this with Alex Labay in the O'Reilly race. I didn't mention this. The big stat from that was he hadn't finished any worse than 19th in his previous 7 O'Reilly starts at Darlington, and then ends up with the last place finish. Ben Rhodes, kind of similar here, hadn't finished, too bad in any of the races up to this point, including over at St. Petersburg, where he was leading laps. Not a track that I would have expected him to be very competitive on. But this one here, running towards the front of the field, getting put out of the race. I know that there was something there where he was making fun of Tyler Ankrum in that. And there were some people trying to put this in the same basket as the Daniel Dye thing. I don't see, the big thing there. And again, if there was some issue with it, that's for Tyler Ankrum to handle. Again, ultimately, people could be offended about whatever. People could be upset about whatever. But it's really, it doesn't involve any of us. It involves these two drivers. And if they want to handle it, however they want to do it, that's fine. And, Ankrum, to his credit, came out and he said that he was, he took the blame for the incident there. And ultimately his day ended up getting ruined from another incident later in the race that dropped him to 24th. That's kind of the other part of that there. So these things are going to happen. You're going to have situations where these, drivers are, talking smack about each other. And that's really, that's kind of the thing where I've been of two minds on it, because, these drivers are competitors. And, you don't reasonably expect them to all be like friends and stuff and, hang out with each other and send each other Christmas cards. They want to compete against each other. But I do think that people can generally understand that there's a line there. I think that, a driver that's upset because he gets wrecked by this other guy, it's not the same thing as, a driver going on a stream and just, casually going on and just ridiculing this other driver that he barely even knows, and, especially the nature of the discussion there too. So, obviously I think one is more, deserving of something, something happening there versus the other. So I don't know. People are going to come down on either sides with that. But that's kind of where I am with that. But again, settle it on the racetrack as best as possible. And again, something else that if the result of it is something it's even better for the sport, then great. Do we need to have a knockdown, drag out fight every week? No. But, again, something that, understanding the pressures of drivers that are dealing with, these conditions and everything like that, that's a whole different avenue than, a public figure being downright careless and stupid about, their platform on the other side of it. So again, I think from what I've heard so far, it's been, both those are being handled the right way. And we'll see if that's ending up being more of a story down the road. Let's see here. Love the Dodge throwbacks for the colleague effort. I mean, a lot of those look nice. It's unfortunate. Minnie Tyrrell had a steering issue there towards the end of the race. Steering box failed. Love seeing the bright red back out there. Mentioning AJ about running the Keselowski paint scheme, the Mopar Dodge. up there, having a good performance there as well. Yeah, that was cool to see. Yeah, again, the Team Realm effort there. Clayton Green running his father's late model paint scheme. That was cool to see. Yeah, pretty solid there in general. But again, Heim's run to the win was definitely I would say the move of the weekend. I mean, that was so much fun to see. It was a thrill. I didn't know if he had enough time to get up there, but man, oh man, he made that really interesting at the end, and that was good to see. And again, I think it still would have been the case if he didn't have a Cup Series guy up there. If, say, he was trying to beat Caden Honeycutt or Daniel Hemrick or anybody else up there. But I will admit that made that even sweeter. So that's another part of that too. Yeah. No, Marcus Hurtado, yeah, too. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, the nature of the comments, certainly, yeah. There's things that have to be done with that. That's a very different thing, So, yeah, definitely. But again, I do think that when it comes to something like that, again, I'm not a big fan of promoting sensitivity training. I don't know how effective that is. I don't agree with that as a solution, but I'm not going to say that nothing needs to be done. Oh no, obviously across the line. And again, very, very stupid and very risky, especially, not just the personal comments against David Malukas, but also, saying stuff about Roger Penske. I mean, you're going to screw yourself out of your entire careers doing stuff like that. That's you just can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. So, I'm glad something is being done, with that, and we'll see where things go. We'll see where things go. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Jude Fernandez. Yeah. I mean, that story too, coming back out there. Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing too. Oh gosh. Yeah. Jude Fernandez. Thank you for bringing that up in both comments. I mean, yeah, that was the other part of that too. Yeah, just Daniel Dye in general, being brought up there, just getting all this hype right out the box and all that. I mean, I think that, the David Malukas is probably proper response is like where did all this hype for him come from before, very early in his career. So I don't know. Again, there's a lot of different directions to it. Something clearly had to be done there. But again, I think the solution should be a bit more effective, and it should be something that should involve Malukas in some way. Again, if he's fine with it, because of course him being the focus of this, I think that would be the relevant element there too. But yeah, again, that's the thing. But again, I don't have the same issue with Ben Rhodes and the tweet that he was posting the other day with, with the Tyler Ankrum there. I mean, these drivers, talk trash at each other and, and stuff like that. I think that's a bit different. But again, I think you can avoid it without being like a personal comment. See, again, this is where it's like, weighing all that. It's not fun to juggle all this. It would be nice to just have it just settled on the track in some way and have some net positive come from it. But that'll be another way to, another aspect of that too. So, we'll see. Hopefully things go, hopefully the net effect of it is positive for sure. So, yeah, Truck Series, I think that's mostly what I have on that one too. I thought I'd have more to say about that race there. I'm not looking at it on my notes here too. Do we have a call on inspection? I don't know if we have that yet. It might still be a little bit too early. Let's see. Okay, hang on. Let me get the right page pulled up. There we go. Looks like this is from here. Nope, that's older. Yeah, no, okay, no announcement on that yet. I'm not seeing anything on there too. Yeah. Yeah. And big all caps, you're actually kind of reminding me another point on this. This kind of goes into kind of what I was saying a while back about, the way that NASCAR kind of cycles people out of the sport. If you don't belong, if you're stepping on toes, too much, if you're just being outrageous and you don't have enough results to show for it, the sport will cycle you out eventually. It really does, because there are a limited number of spots. There's a limited number of drivers. and something like that. And, again, if it's something like that with this, yeah, again, I will say this, Daniel Dye can't keep going the direction he's going. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. And especially with where he's not established himself as a brand there too. So yeah, that's definitely where that needs to go. So we'll see. Again, sports had people like that before. Some have kind of made the adjustment and they stay in the sport for a long time. Others don't make the adjustment and then they just flame out of the sport. And that's what happens. And it's unfortunate in some cases because they don't respect, how rarefied of the air it is to even be a competitor in this series. Yeah, sometimes that happens. So that's definitely a part of it. But, yeah, just still another element of it there. So let's see. Yeah, we don't have a call-in inspection. I'm seeing in our picture, Eric Jones just tweeting a little, actually this is about half an hour ago, not a little while ago. Second top 10 of the year, but feel like we could have had more. 43 gang just knows how to get it done around here. Proud of everyone. So definitely agree with that there too. It's too bad. Yeah, it's too bad he just had some struggles. But again, very physical race out there, and he stayed in it. Getting a top 10 out of that after the spin, who knows what damage could have been done to the engine or the smaller diffuser or anything. That would be another one to look at that too. Let's see. Alrighty. So, let's see here. I think I'll do show and tell here before. I might do a brief break, and then we'll do some trivia here. But I'll do show and tell before, since I have this on here. So I showed you the shirt, and I got the hat here as well. I brought out my Wally Dallenbach collection for the great run that Eric Jones had today in the 43. So I'll bring this out. I'm just thinking maybe, let's see if I show it into the camera, if I should angle the camera down again, maybe do that. But I got there we go. 64 scale Dallenbach from 1994. Racing Champions made this back then. Whoop. I don't know if that's going to be in focus. That's not very good focus. Let's try this down here. We'll bring the camera down. There we go. There we go. Now we got it. Yeah. I was never a big fan of the rubber tired ones growing up, but on this one here, it's pretty much the only edition they had of this one. But really nice. Whoop, hang on. Really nice coloring on it. So kind of a bit of a history lesson on this deal here. One thing that really stands out, and it always seems kind of random with this one. And when Richard Petty retired in 1992, the original plan was that they were going to retire the number 43. I mean, NASCAR has never retired numbers. They didn't retire Dale Earnhardt's number, but the team was basically going to not run it. And so what they did the next year is they ran the number 44. They put Rick Wilson in the car, and then Rick Wilson had a terrible season, and he just struggled the entire year. Wasn't really a factor in any of the races. I believe it was either the Scene Vault or some other show where he was, mentioning that just things just weren't happening in the team that year. So Rick Wilson was out of the car by the end of the year, and they brought Wally Dallenbach in for 1994 after Dallenbach had parted ways with Roush Racing after driving what was then the new Keystone beer scheme. I saw somebody in the chat already was mentioning that. So in 94, they brought Dallenbach in the car, and they brought back the 43. So this was there was a lot of promotions behind this. When we were at Sears Point that year, they were handing out a bunch of rub-on tattoos of the 43 car and celebrating that the number was coming back. And of course, that was the big deal. But the problem was during 1994 is you also had a ton of different team changes and new teams coming into the sport. And a lot of teams failed to qualify for races, including teams that were traditionally believed to be just weekly contenders. Harry Gant missed the race at Martinsville, if you can believe that, during his retirement tour, driving for Andy Petrie and the Leo Jackson team. So, it just ended up in such a situation where Dallenbach was kind of, still adjusting to the team, had a last place finish at Darlington, and missed a couple races in the first part of the year. And ultimately, by August, he was out of the car and John Andretti was in the 43. That kind of led to things later down the line. Other drivers, Bobby Hamilton came in after that. Longer story from there. But that 94 season was also the 40th anniversary year for STP itself. And I actually have press kit from that season commemorating that. This was the logo that they put together here as well. So not their partnership with Petty Enterprises, which had, of course, started in 71, 72, but the 40th year that they've been around. And so I have that in here with the old press kit. Picked up this card over at the Petty Museum last year, this signed by Richard Petty there. And Dallenbach, much like a lot of the drivers today, you noticed in the promo that Fox did for Martinsville that pretty much every driver has a goatee now. Very much the same with Dallenbach. I think he didn't have one at Roush, and then he grew one there for driving the 43 car. But this paint scheme always really stood out to me. Not just the fact that Dallenbach had a great run at our home track, which was the best run of his year, and also in 1993 was the best run that Rick Wilson had, was at Sears Point that year in the 44 car. But I always liked this one, where they have the stripe a little bit further up. And I thought it was great when the Legacy Motor Club showed the nose of the car and showed that kind of blue, and red stripe, and then the white over the dark blue there. And there was a lot of debate, people saying, oh, it's 95, it's 96. It's like, no. No, you can't hide that from me. That's 1994. And it was so refreshing that it was right. It's like, yes, yeah, they're doing the actual scheme. And then they did that great cross promotion. They were saying like, well, okay, if you recognize this, you probably should get your, probably get checked. And it's like, okay, well, all right. I like it just as much. That's fun. Yeah, I thought that they did a great job with the scheme there. And again, I don't like that the numbers are moved forward, but I like the brand activation. I thought they did a nice job with it. I hope it gets made in die cast. We've seen the STP cars pretty reliably made these last few years. But yeah, so I got that, picked up on here, mentioning this here as well. Looking at the some of the press releases here as well. It says, if there is such a character in today's motorsports world as a young veteran or an experienced rookie, Wally Dallenbach Jr. is your man. Consider that he is 30 years of age, has not won a NASCAR event, yet he has captured championships on other highly regarded circuits, such as the SCCA and IMSA, and he's been driving competitively since his teens. And there you go. So that was a big part of the effort. It's unfortunate it didn't work out for Wally that year, but again, one of my absolute favorite paint schemes. I was floored to see that this week. I was geeking out about it, showing all these pictures this week, including the picture I got from Turn 10. So I hope you enjoyed that there as well. But yeah, again, I'll bring this back up to the camera here again, see if I can get that in better focus here. But yeah, that's not great. But yeah, but Racing Champions running this scheme here with the dark blue wheels and bringing the 43 back that year and seeing on a newer version of the Pontiac than Richard had run in 92 was good to see that as well. And yeah, unfortunately, Wally never won in the Cup Series. Indeed, we saw pretty much the end of his Cup career in the first part of 500 days when he was driving for Galaxy Motorsports in 2000, and then Galaxy didn't come back the next year. And we'll see later on in that series where things led to in his professional career at the same extent there too. This one here, I think this was made by Revell, 24th scale here on this one. And again, you always remember the Richard Petty cars not having his name on there, that the paint scheme was iconic enough. But this one here having his name in all caps on the roof rail there as well. Does anybody know if Dallenbach was at the events today? I didn't hear anything about if he was there, but it looked like a lot of the veterans were. But it would have been great for him to be a part of that there as well. Die Hard is an associate sponsor on there. And again, interesting tooling on this here too, with the clear windows, which is very uncommon from that same time period there too. Got the chassis here there as well. Just a very nice version of the scheme there. I also have the bank version of the car here. Again, Racing Champions version. It's unfortunate that on these, the red paint kind of cracks on them a bit, but I was kind of showing that there as well. I don't mind the black windowed cars there because I was so used to the 64 scales having that back then. And I never really used one of these as a bank, but conceivably you could. But again, I always liked the dark blue wheels, and remember very clearly how nice that looked back then. But it's interesting to me, again, that Racing Champions didn't really make a new version of the Pontiac. They kind of used this older 91, 92 version, even on like 94, 95 paint schemes. But I didn't mind it because I always liked those too. I mean, this is more like the 1990s. It's got the little grill here on the upper nose that you kind of remember for the late 80s, early 90s there as well. But a nice scheme. And then much later, Racing Champions did their 5 decades of petty deal, and they made the 64 scale. I never liked that they put this on like a 96 Pontiac. It kind of doesn't represent the scheme very well. Some of the other cars they made from back then, they used the late 80s, early 90s deal. But this one here didn't quite carry. The thing that's fun, though, is this is actually the second half of the year when John Andretti took over. So it has a rookie stripe on the back of it there in an interesting spot on the actual TV panel. And then it also has this decal above the rear wheels. I haven't seen a picture of this one to match it. But actually, to tie in with one of the Grand Marshals today, it's a Thanks Harry Gant decal with the number 33 there in front of the rear wheels. So that was kind of an interesting deal. And it's only on one of the sides there. I assume this would be the scheme he'd run at Atlanta for what was Gant's last Cup Series start in the 33 car. But that was kind of the promo back then. But yeah, that was we got inspection cleared. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. And yes, indeed. Okay, yep, 2 minutes ago, Bob Pocker is tweeting, Cup Tech is complete. No issues. Tyler Reddick is the winner. Cindric and Hocevar's cars to R&D. I guess they want to see how Hocevar was able to pick off all those spots there at the end. So we'll find out there as well. But yes, congratulations again to Reddick for the win earlier today. And again, your last place finisher will be Timmy Hill. So we'll have that up there for you guys later tonight. Jude Fernandez. Yeah, I wonder if Michael Waltrip, Lake Speed cross paths again. Give him a knuckle sandwich. Yeah, who knows? That would be really interesting to, that would be interesting for them to kind of, it'd be great to get them in the same spot and ask them both about it, get their different sides of the story. But yeah, that would be another one to look at. But yeah, again, I really loved geeking out here for this. Again, throwback weekend, even with the limited paint schemes. I love that the Petty team, they can run the SCP car every week for all I care. And there's some other wonderful schemes from the team's history that they could run. I'd love to see the first part of the 2000 season. I didn't used to like that scheme, but I think that would be an interesting candidate because I know a lot of people were suggesting about doing the Cheerios schemes. I mean, they only had those for about 7 years. And we saw one tribute done. I guess, I think it was Alpha Prime did it in the O'Reilly Series race a couple of years ago. But we haven't really seen it on the Cup side yet. So that would be cool. But yeah, I'm always going to be partial to this house recognizes royalty in terms of, in a couple of senses. I got my mother's family is English, have clear memories of watching Princess Diana's wedding, in earlier years. And then also here on the racing side, yeah, we definitely go for Richard Petty out here. We had a wonderful time meeting him over at the Petty Museum last year. And yeah, so when there's going to be a great STP scheme, I'm definitely going to geek out about which one of them it is and seeing it out there. And this was a lot of fun. So I'm glad they had a good run. It would have been nice if they won or had an even better finish. But hopefully it gets made because I'd love to add it to the collection here at the same time. But yeah, the Cheerios ones are good. Maybe we'll see some of those coming up. But, hey, I mean, as long as if we get, I'll do the compromise. Maybe you have one Darlington race where you get a Cheerios one and one with an STP scheme. I'd be A-okay with that. I think that would be fun. So maybe we'll see one in September. I wouldn't be against that because that would actually be kind of interesting to see how that would represent on the current cars since we had a couple of years where, well, I guess we had really 1 year where it was on the car tomorrow. So there's that too. Let's see here. Okay. So there we go. Let's see here. So oh yeah, let me do this. So I do want to do some trivia. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to take a break here for just a moment and get some water here, and then we'll get started here, and then we'll jump into that. In the meantime, if you have any other questions for this weekend, we'll jump into that as well. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'm going to take a break for just a moment, folks, and then we'll wrap up with trivia for tonight. So again, stay tuned here. Alrighty, we're back here. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to see if I can get this to work. I think it might only be on my primary screen, so I don't know if I can get this to work, but I will try. Let's see here. Let's see. No, we're not going to do that. Do I have an option on this? Screen. Let's switch screen. Does this count? Okay, the second screen is going to be... Oh, okay. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. Hang on. Okay, hang on. I probably should have done this on the break, but that's okay. We'll try it here. All right. We're going to bring you over here. Okay, maybe we can make this work. Hang in there, folks. Maybe we can get this going. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. No, we don't need that. Are we going to be able to do this? Where are you? Nope, don't need that. All right, how about this? Let's try little something here that I picked up the other day. And I think for throwback, the unofficial throwback weekend, perhaps something to try out. Whoop, not that. Why is it not doing it on the second screen? Okay, it's not that. Why is it not showing the second screen? It should show the second screen. All right. Nope, you are. Okay. I have to dedicate which screen is which here and maybe kind of figure this out. Okay. I think it might be. Okay, we don't need the second monitor. Ooh, here we go. Boom. There we go. Okay, now if I switch back here, I guess I can put, oh, here we go. So there we go. Okay, now we got this. I found a, can you see this on the screen? I found a digital version or a CD-ROM version of Trivial Pursuit for NASCAR, and I'm going to see if this can do it. Let's see if we can make this work. Let's give me the README text. I don't need the README. Oh, come on. Oh, now I confused it. Oh, now it's showing it on the other screen. Oh, come on. Hold up. Ah. Why did it go to the other screen? I need to get this figured out. Hang on. I got to bring this back to the other screen for that to work. Okay, we're going to bring you back here. Yeah, if I can get this to work. I've had to trick this thing into working the last couple times I've tried it. But I think it should be good here. Come on. See a screenshot of the NASCAR webpage from 2003. Yeah, that's what it looked like. I don't know if I can get this to work. If I can't get it to work, that's all right. But we'll see. I'm going to try one more time. All right, come on. Open. Keep getting the same installation error on here. Goodness me. Yeah, we're seeing the matrix. Exactly. Yep. Can I set it to the other one? All right, let me set it to the other screen. Second monitor. Now we're going to switch back. Okay. All right. Now, is it going to show the setup screen on here? It might not let me stream after this. But yeah. No, I hear you about this. Oh, gosh. This is what I was trying to sort out during the break, and it just wouldn't quite do it. But we're going to see if it lets me. And then if it's really, if it just gets taken down, then that's a whole other issue. Come on. Come on. Yep. Please reinstall it. It's like, okay, reinstall it then. Come on, dude. All right. I could do another break, but I'm not sure if that's going to make it any easier. I'm going to do another break here and see if I can get this loaded. Hang on, folks. Well, sorry about this, folks. You're absolutely right. It is not It is not faster than Xfinity Internet, and that was not the case. Okay, yeah, the problem is I got it in compatibility mode, but what it does is it takes control of the mouse, so it doesn't let me switch between the window that the stream is on and the window that the program is on. So I could play the program, but you just hear the sound and you wouldn't see the images. So it looks like that's not going to work. So I'm going to table that for now. I hate to tease you guys with it there, but I did pick this up here recently on that. And maybe this isn't the right forum for it anyway. I guess that's more, what, is that more like Twitch or something? I don't even do any of those platforms, but maybe we'll explore that down the road there too. But I was able to get it to work. It's a little different from our 90s trivia thing here, just because what it does is it lets you, it kind of just goes rapid fire from one question to the next, rather than, and I think it gives you multiple choice. So it's a little bit of, so yeah. So again, apologies on that. I don't know why. Yeah, I could get it to work on here, and I had it on both screens that last time, but yeah, it just wouldn't let me. I tried using the touchpad to override it here, and it just wouldn't recognize doing that. So I'll keep exploring that option, and maybe we'll get something on here. It's a pretty neat program. It's kind of more, I think our device is a little bit more well-suited to the show here, but I'm not going to, I'm going to keep this on hand, though, because there might be a simpler solution to that that we'll have to figure out with that. Yeah, running it in a virtual window, yeah. Yeah, it needs to be like in its own window, and then still being able to have it. I think that's where it just needs to be treated. But yeah, it basically takes over the screen and does that. So I got it in compatibility mode earlier, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, but you didn't come in here for tech support here, so I do apologize on that. But I'm not going to waste more of your guys' time here while I try to figure this out, and we'll just kick this down the road. Luckily, we got plenty of races left this season, and I think at one point here we'll get that going. I just need to watch some YouTube tutorials or whatever and get that figured out, and then we'll be back where we need to be here on that. So we will, as backup plan here, we'll bring out this the late 90s deal here, and we'll do a couple of questions, and I'm just going to go ahead and just pick the category here to save some time here so you don't waste it anymore on that. We will jump into the tracks category. I think that's probably appropriate for this weekend with Darlington, and we'll do a couple questions here to wrap up, and then that will be the show for this week. So hopefully I didn't lose too much of you guys here on that as well. Oh, and thank you for the super chat there, Beast of Metal. A few bucks to fund your efforts into making the Trivial Pursuit CD work correctly in a live streaming environment. Yeah, we're just gonna have to do some tests here on that and do that. So again, thank you very much for that, and we'll get that going. But I don't want to leave out trivia because I did jump into the Oscars last week, and I do want to jump into doing some here on that. And we will do some tracks questions. So here we go. First one is, what track was once the site of a World War II Air Force base? That is our first question. What track was once the site of a World War II Air Force base? That is the question. All right, what track is that? Yeah, we're still here? Okay, good. Good. Yeah. I'm sure it's a simple solution there on that, but we'll get that worked out, and then that'll be. I was figuring, I knew it did the thing where it took over the screen, and I was doing that. I was playing around with that last week, and I'm like, okay, well, I could probably pop this up. It doesn't recognize this second screen, so I thought I could kind of just shoehorn it in there, but it was not playing ball. So yeah, we'll do a window capture, like one of those kind of programs. I think that'll do it. So stay tuned, okay? Just a teaser for now. It's not the best teaser at all. No, I really thought I could get that to work, but yeah. Let me read the question again here. What track was once the site of a World War II Air Force base? That is our question. Airbase Speedway, Coca-Cola Super Speedway. We've got several guesses for Talladega, Auto Club, Tiburon, Tyler Reddick's Hardee's Grill Super Speedway. That's right. We got the Hardee's scheme coming back next week with Bubba Wallace at Martinsville. Hopefully that looks good. Last Bro's pretty happy with it. He was very amped up for Hardee's coming back as a sponsor. It's a strong history between the Cale Yarborough ones and the Ward Burton scheme and the Greg Sachs one. But it's fine. It's a solid one. I didn't expect it to have the red and yellow, so look like McDonald's there, but obviously that's colors in their logo, so that makes sense. What track was leaving that detail out, but that's okay. What track was once the site of a World War II Air Force base? And the answer indeed is Talladega. You guys got it. Talladega. Talladega is the correct answer. Next one. Okay. That one's a little bit too easy. Ooh, this is interesting. So keep in mind, this is the late 90s, so it's probably not the correct answer today. But next question, who has won poles in 3 different classes of stock car events held at Charlotte? Let me read that again. Who has won poles in 3 different classes of stock car events held at Charlotte? Nobody said Linden. That's a good guess. Microwave is loud. It's a very good guess. Who has won poles in 3 different classes of stock car events held at Charlotte? Yeah. The Oscars were hilarious last week. I know having grown up in California and then studied in Southern California, the Oscars have turned into such a train wreck. You just have to watch it. It's always the show where everybody's like, "Oh, nobody watches the Oscars," and then the next day something happens during it, and the next day everybody's like, "Oh my God, did you see this thing that happened?" Yeah, it was just as silly as it's always been this year. I swear, it is the best comedy that Hollywood puts forward every year, because the nominees just get stupider and stupider, and like it's just a real head scratcher. I mean, the one that won Best Picture didn't even make a profit. I mean, how are you going to say it's the best movie? I don't know. I like that F1 was in it. I like that it got an award for, I think it was Best Sound or something, so that's cool. But yeah. But I always cut that stream short because I'm always watching it, and it's always a borderline hate watch because it is just so silly. I think people have figured out by this point that my sense of humor is pretty twisted. And that's just one element of it. And that's just one. I don't watch any other awards ceremonies. I don't care about the Grammys, the Tonys, or any of that other stuff. But I do watch the Oscars because I think it's hilarious. And it always seems to be after Phoenix. And this year was after Vegas. So that's just kind of how that worked out. But yeah. Yeah, Jude Fernandez, I'm with you on that. I'm not the biggest Conan fan. I thought he was okay. I kind of liked the most chaotic year. I mean, you had the one with the slap, and then you had the one where there was like they didn't have a host, and then at the end of the ceremony they said, "Well, that's it," and they didn't have a bit or anything. Like that one was hysterical. Like somebody I'm sure has put together a supercut of just like the silliest moments, and that itself is probably feature length at this point. But yeah. Who has won poles in 3 different classes of stock car events held at Charlotte is the question. Video Music Awards used to be peak. I didn't really watch those growing up, but I know friends who did, so that was definitely another part of it. Who has won poles in 3 different classes of stock car events held at Charlotte? The answer is Ward Burton. Ward Burton. Now, it's probably a different answer today with the Truck Series being around much longer, but Ward Burton is the answer. I don't know if he was the first necessarily. Did anybody guess that? When you look at the answers, you got Petty, Earnhardt, Nemechek. Nemechek's a very good guess. Michael Waldrop is also a good guess. But poles, like different series. Like that's basically the way that the question was kind of phrased. It wasn't written very well, much like most movies today. But yeah. Makil Samoskovich? Or is that Mackie Samoskovich? I thought you were going to give me a hard one, Beast of Metal. Come on. Yeah. K-Pop Demon Hunters. That was pretty good. I just watched that. I did not watch that till just yesterday. And yeah, that was pretty good. It was fun. I will say it was a little fast paced for my taste. It kind of felt like a commercial. I kept waiting for like a Coke commercial to break out in it. But I mean, that kind of added to the humor of it. So yeah, no, that was fun. And the performance of the Oscars was pretty fun too. So that was cool. I'm glad. I'm glad that fun is returning. That it's long overdue. So that's good to see. Oh yeah, was it Sam Ayers at Fast as Xfinity Mobile? Yeah. Oh my goodness. What's the new thing for O'Reilly Auto Parts? I know they got the jingle, but is it like is it as reliable as O'Reilly Auto Parts or something? They probably got. I'm sure they got something for that. But Ward Burton is the correct answer. Yeah, it must have been for ARCA. Yeah, maybe. I was almost, yeah. Auto Rock and Racing, you got it? Oh, my goodness. Let me go back up here. Senna, Loy Allen, Mark Martin, Nico Rosberg. Everybody having fun with this. Buddy Baker, Waltrip. I must have missed that. Where is it? Loy Allen, that would be fun. Oh yeah, I heard Project Hail Mary is good. I might see that next week. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, Ward Burton is the correct answer. Yeah. No, I recommend it, Jude Fernandez. It's fun. It's a shorter K-pop Demon Hunters is like a shorter movie, but it's yeah. Yeah. I won't spoil it. But yeah, music is fun and everything. But yeah, Project Hail Mary, I've only heard good things about that one, so I may have to watch that one too. So we'll see. But yeah, Ward Burton, so right on. There you go. All right, we'll just do one or two more questions. I know we've already had enough on this show here today, but let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one. We're looking for a number. We're looking for a number. So here you go. How long is the road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? Don't look it up. Don't look it up. I know you're thinking about it. Oh, dog's barking out there. How long is the road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? I do not have Badger in here, but he might be coming up the stairs. But we'll probably be wrapped up before he gets up here. How long is the road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? That is the question. Yeah, Ben, I did see that. Yeah. We were originally thinking of waiting for the Criterion edition, but yeah, we don't really watch Netflix that much. Actually, we kind of let our subscription lapse on that. But yeah, pulled it up for that. So that was yeah, that was fun. It was fun. I like that. Okay, we got guesses for 3.27 miles, 1.8, 1.6, 2 miles, 2.23 miles. Again, the question is, for those of you new in here, how long is the road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? There is a road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and it is of a certain length. 2.1 miles, 21 for Blackjack. I like that. I like your thinking, Rooney Mac. Oh, I mispronounced it? Oh, no. It's O sounds like the O in unfortunately. Forge, skay. Ski is skay. Wow. Okay. No, you did give me a hard one. That is a trickier pronunciation. Well, there you are. 420, 69, 666, 67, 60. Okay. All right. We're getting to the fun ones. All right. Here we go. Here's the answer. How long is the road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? The answer is 2.5 miles. 2.5. I like the 2.1. I wish it were that. Rooney Mac had the right idea. But it is 2.5. Looks like Jimmy got it. Jimmy Q7M4C got it. I didn't see the Frankenstein movie either. I didn't think that was going to have much momentum in the awards, but there it was. Train Dreams was intriguing, although I know it didn't win anything. Yeah, Auto Rock and Race 94. Kudos to you on the Ward one. Yeah, that one completely blindsided me. You said 2 miles? You say 2.5 miles? There you go. Oh, Connor Ritchie, I think I answered your question last week, but yeah, the Green Brothers paint schemes, they're all really good. Definitely David Green's, the Wolf tobacco one, the green one with the black stripes on the Pontiac. Oh, it's good. I'm not usually big into Bush series paint schemes from that era, but that one's a really nice one. Yeah, Jimmy did get it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. No, not that one. Ooh, okay. So again, we're looking for a number. Might be a different answer because this is the late 90s, but we'll do this one here we'll make this the last question for the evening here, folks. So last question for the evening. What is the record for the most cautions at Phoenix during a Winston Cup event? So don't look it up. But we're talking late 90s, so like 98, 99. And what is the record for most cautions at Phoenix during a Winston Cup event? So again, we are looking for a number. Yes, it's a very Wally stream tonight. We got the hat, we got the shirt, we got the cars. We are having fun with that tonight. So there we go. All right, I guess this is for 10 and 13. And 12 and 9. Okay. We're getting up there, but let's see. All right, I'll read it one more time here. What is the record for most cautions at Phoenix during a Winston Cup event? All right. Camera 2. Okay. All right, here we go. And the answer is 10. 10 is correct. See, Bean Boy 89 got it. 10 is the correct answer. Is he 12? 8, 18. I think Bean Boy might have been the only one. 7, 8, 12, 0. There we go. Bean Boy, right on. Wow, we only got one person getting the right answer on each question. Well, how about that? 10. 10 is the correct answer. All righty. Well, tell you what, folks, that will do it for the show here tonight. So congratulations to Tyler Reddick for his 4th win of the season in the first 6 races of the year. The last place article will be on Timmy Hill, which will be up later tonight. In the meantime, the website is lastcar.info. The Patreon is patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. My Twitter feed is @lastcaronbrock. And until then, our next show is going to be next Sunday after the Cup Series race at Martinsville. Going back short tracking, we're going to talk about how everybody's performing there. We got the debut of the Hardee's paint scheme. We're going to see if Reddick can pull off a win there or otherwise. We're going to find out. But in the meantime, thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I do apologize about the trivia program, but I will not forget about it. I'm going to look up. We're going to try to work something out, and we'll have that on one of our shows. I don't know if it'll be next week or not, but stay tuned. You're going to find out, and we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work one way or the other, and we'll find out what we can do with that. So again, thank you so much everyone for tuning in and for your support, and stay tuned. We got a lot more coming. So see you all next week.